Hey guys, Jim from GrowthWise here, and I was just working with a student who reminded me why the way you are breathing while you take a test is probably screwing you up. So I'm going to break it all down for you here. The student got 19 questions wrong in his first ever English section, but I noticed that in his first 26 questions, he only had 3 wrong. That would put him on track for 9 wrong across the whole section, but actually he had 19 wrong. So as the section went on, he was getting more and more questions wrong, and he said this is a really common pattern for him. So I realized I have to teach him about deep breathing. Now, here are the basic facts behind why deep breathing is going to change your test taking. The key fact, perhaps, is that 20 to 25% of the oxygen that you breathe goes to your brain. You'd think it's going to all your big muscle groups. It's going to your brain. This is probably the hardest working muscle in your body. There's so much going on up here. So under normal test conditions though, you're probably stressed. So your breathing is going to be more shallow as opposed to deep. And then you're hunched over a desk. And this is not a good ergonomic position to be getting oxygen into your lungs, as any yoga teacher could teach you. So test takers are chronically underbreathed during a time when their brain is probably working harder than any other time in the year. A 4-hour standardized test is a mental marathon. The next thing to know about is your amygdala. It's down here at the brain stem, and you could call it like the fear center of your brain, and it's where your fight or flight response kicks off. Now, fight, flight, or freeze, they call it, is what happens when that old neural wiring that we have picked up through hundreds of thousands of years of evolution detects danger, and it says we're either going to fight someone, or we're going to run, flight, or we're going to freeze, which we all know that experience of just freezing when we're really scared of something. It's old survival evolutionary circuitry. Unfortunately, it will kick into gear during an ACT when fighting, fleeing, and freezing, none of which are helpful options. But it's just what our sort of biological, chemical, neurochemical, in other words, sciencey words too, all that circuitry is designed to do. And so your amygdala, down on the base of your brain, it's constantly detecting how much oxygen is in the blood. And when it detects there's less oxygen, it's detecting that there's probably a threat going on. And so it is more likely to start kickstarting a panic response in you. The problem is that during test taking, panic decisions are terrible decisions. When we panic, we spend way too long on a question when we should have just guessed and moved on, or trusted our first instinct and moved on. Also, paradoxically, also when we're panicking, we will look at a question and immediately decide we can't do it, we don't have time. When actually, if you just patiently took the 8 seconds it would take to read the question, you'd realize it's actually an easy question. And you get to the answer 10 seconds after that. And you're done actually pretty quickly. So panic decisions are terrible decisions, but when you're not breathing enough and your amygdala is detecting a lack of oxygen in the blood, it's putting you into fight or flight, and it's causing you to have panic responses. The other factor, in addition to your calmness, is mental energy. And so your brain cells, while they're working so hard, like anything that's working really hard, it's where there's a lot of activity, it's producing a lot of waste products. Think of all the places where this takes place. When you have a really hard workout and you're really sore the next day, it's because your muscles are producing lactic acid as waste products. You're sweating, so you can carry all these waste products that your cells have been producing through all this metabolic activity, and the sweat in your urine helps get this stuff out. Well, when your brain is working so hard during a standardized test, 4-hour mental marathon, it's producing waste products. And so studies suggest that deep breathing stimulates the cerebral spinal fluid that is circulating in your brain to circulate more rapidly, and it's basically coming around and cleaning up all those waste products and flushing them out of your brain so that they can sort of be released by your body. Think of, if you've ever been in New York City, all the trash you might see on the streets before people come through and clean it up. Think of your family kitchen at Thanksgiving or Christmas or another holiday, and there's all these people who come over, all this cooking takes place, and there's so much trash in the kitchen that builds up. where there's a lot of activity, you're going to see the emittance of a lot of waste products. And this happens in our brain too during the test. And so by deep breathing, you're stimulating the cerebral spinal fluid to come through and clean out all the waste products so your brain can keep functioning cleanly and smoothly. And that's why so many of our students will say that when they're doing the deep breathing on the test, it's like it was a mental refresh every question. And the crazy thing is by the end of the test, you're not tired. It's nuts. When I first started actually learning about breathing techniques through Wim Hof maybe 5 years ago, and then I went in and I'd go take the SAT or ACT, I would battle test these deep breathing techniques. And I noticed at the end of the test, I was like, oh my God, I'm not even tired at the end of the test. I used to be exhausted at the end of a test. I needed to go home and take a nap. Guess why? Because during the nap, I'd have nice, long, slow, deep breaths, and then my brain could come in and clean out all those waste products. And then I'd wake up pretty refreshed. You can be refreshing yourself throughout the test by deep breathing and getting enough oxygen, stimulating the cerebral spinal fluid to come through and clean up all those waste products from your hardworking brain cells. For these reasons, my students have had incredible results with a deep breath on every question. And I realized, actually only a couple months ago, even though I've been teaching this for a bunch of years, that my highest 13, 12, 11, 10 point ACT score jumpers, all of them had committed to the deep breath every question. Same with my highest SAT scores as well. They were all the students who had totally committed to the deep breath every question. So let me share with you, actually, you know what? On the next picture, let me see if Instagram can do that. In the meantime, I'm going to read out some testimonials for you of students who have done the deep breathing. So this is Arav. Arav said, I was much calmer, much clearer, and I'm usually exhausted after the test. He said, it's not that I'm completely energized, but I don't feel anything even near the level of tiredness I did last time. That's what he told me after scoring 34, 35. And he's in deep breath on every question. Here's Henry. When friends ask me how I went from a 20 to a 32 on the ACT, 12-point jump, I tell them, quote, breathing. It's crazy. It's almost annoying how simple yet effective it is. Here's Toby. My advice is to breathe. I definitely think the breathing helps to calm you down and think better. Here's Kim. Every single time I deep breathed, I would have a new mindset approaching a question. It cleared my mind. Here's Savannah. I was impressed. I breathed the whole time. I remained calm throughout, which was a surprise to me. And after the test, I wasn't tired at all. Savannah used to have these meltdowns and get so frustrated when she encountered hard problems, she'd lose it during the test. Not until she started doing the deep breath on every single question, that pattern was part of her past. It was over. She didn't do it anymore. She was calm. Here's Lila. I had never been calm while taking an ACT before. The breathing works. Actually, I should breathe more in the rest of my life. So I see it over and over, and it was so exciting to get to show this student how to deep breathe on every question, because going forward, mental endurance, it used to be a big problem for him, and I don't think it's going to be going forward. Lastly, I'll share the story of a student who probably used to roll her eyes at me when I would talk to her about deep breathing, but then she came back to me a few months later. I was shocked, and she said, Jim, I used to be number 8 on my squash team. I'm number 4 now. She said, the difference is I've been doing these 30 breath sets, and that's something I can teach you another day. But she was also taking these extra deep breaths between points, just like she would between questions on the test. And she said, by the end of the match, I'm not so tired like I used to be, and I'm calmer. I'm not nervous and choking in the big points like I used to. And so she went from number 8 to number 4 in the squash team as a result. If you play an endurance-related sport and you do these 30 breath sets, which I can teach you, you're going to have probably at least 10% extra cardio by the end of the game than you would have otherwise. So it's a massive factor, and I don't think nearly enough people realize that.